Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, around the corner or across the country. My name is Shane Skwarek, and on behalf of SFX.com Small Business Solutions, I am pleased to welcome you back once again to our small business session here at SFX. It's been a couple weeks since our last sessions, and we were on probably a 6 or 7 week straight record there for a little while. But as such, with most things in life, work comes up, life comes up, kids come up, and time just sort of slips away. But I'm excited to be back with you. And today's guest is Dan Sorkin, a longtime friend of mine who works as marketing manager and copywriter at Money Map Press. Dan, welcome to our small business session.
Hey, thanks, Shane. And quick correction, just copywriter at Money Map Press.
Just copywriter. Okay. Now, do you work as a marketing consultant as well, or am I just making that up?
I did. These days,
Okay.
Money Map keeps me so busy that I don't really have the time.
That's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So Dan, tell me a little about what you're doing over at Money Map Press as a copywriter. And probably, I guess, even to begin with that is, what does a copywriter do? To me, I've always thought, before really talking to you about this in depth, a copywriter is, when you copyright something, like trademarking and copyright it. But I was open up to a whole new world once you started getting involved with some of this.
Exactly. So when most people think of copywriters, what they think of is people who write blog posts, website copy, and there are copywriters that do that. I'm what's called a direct response copywriter. So my focus is a different skill set. What I do is write words that get people to take action, whether it's click on the ad, fill out the form, buy the thing, and give us your credit card. That's what I do. And so it's a combination of understanding how to persuade people to do what you want, but also real copywriters understand the kind of offer that will be irresistible to your market, how to do the right research, how to do the right split testing to figure out, is this headline work or does this headline work, or is it this lead or this angle or that angle? So it's a bunch of things that we call copywriting for some weird reason.
And I think that was the hardest part for me to kind of get over is, I've never really associated words with being called copy. I didn't come from that background. I just called it content. And so, early on for me working with some marketing experts, they're like, copy, I need the copy. I'm going to send you the copy. I'm like, you're going to send me a copy of what? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it was a little bit of a struggle. But so in essence, what you're doing is when we're scrolling through Facebook and I'm seeing these ads that pop up, that's making me stop and actually click and read that, 6 or 7 paragraph ad that's from, you're the guy that's figuring out the words to put there to catch my attention, to make me want to click through the link. Am I describing that correctly?
Exactly. But the part that I always stress to people is because then what people think is, oh, I should go hire some English major
right.
that, wrote their thesis on Hemingway or something. And English majors tend to be awful at what I do.
Really?
Yeah, because think about it. The kind of writing you do in academia is not the kind of writing that is going to get you to buy something.
Okay, that's fair.
If you look at the scroll through the stuff, like the ads that you actually click on, notice that they mostly attack you emotionally, not logically. Notice that the language is always about 5th grade level or below. And that's not because people are stupid. That's because we need to grab your attention right away.
Right.
We need to keep your attention, and we need to be clear and simple and make it very easy to understand what we're saying, as opposed to, I don't know, like a 50-page dissertation.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the word dissertation. Yeah. I mean, nobody really wants to read that. And you kind of see that trend sort of flowing into web design quite a bit lately is, it used to be all about content, really copy, where every page you had to be a 50-page dissertation to get any traction. And it's moved away, at least in the trends I've seen, where it's a whole lot less copy or content for those of you that were like me even just a couple of months ago. And it's a whole lot more, a lot of aesthetics, but it's really pointed copy. It's folks like yourself that are really writing catchy words, catchy phrases that are drawing people's eyes to certain points of the website or certain areas to close the sale. With everybody, I think I was looking at a stat earlier today or yesterday for a client where it's like 50% of people that access the internet right now, 50% of web traffic right now comes from mobile device users. And so you know what it's like. You're not going to open up a website and scroll for 35 minutes looking through something. It's going to be like you're reading a newspaper on your phone. Nobody wants to do that. That's not going to close a sale. So I've definitely seen that shift sort of go towards, really concise verbiage that, to be perfectly honest, works better and way easier on the eyes. And it seems to, and maybe this is just a small use case, but it seems to actually drive significantly better results. But
well, what's interesting is that, so I've seen a lot of websites, and this is particularly true I saw this in startups. I don't know how true it is in general small business, is they go on that, that parallax design with the columns. And
absolutely,
as a copywriter, that actually drives me nuts.
Parallax does.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why.
Really?
I'll tell you why.
I better close my ears because I use a lot of parallax. So
because now this is true more for for a landing page that I'm directing to an ad from an ad as opposed to a general website that you fall on.
Okay.
But think about a landing page. If someone's reading something, right? They go click from an ad to a landing page. The way to think about it is they're looking for an excuse to stop reading and to click off. Now, if I don't have parallax, if I just have that sort of straight like copy, a good copywriter has this thing called flow, where his copy is so good that you're forced to keep reading from one word to the next because he's has an open-ended question that he promises to give you the answer to. Hasn't finished his thought, or he's promised to tell you this amazing thing. So you're forced to keep reading until you read everything he wants you to read. But parallax breaks the copy up and gives people a natural point to be like, I don't feel like reading this anymore.
That's actually a pretty interesting point in both aspects, because I know exactly what you're talking about when you're talking about what the good copy is again, you see it on Facebook ads all the time, and a lot of the times too. I remember like anytime, especially growing up, when I'm trying to find an answer to a car question or something like that, or the best ever is like dating advice websites where it's like you keep reading, and you have to buy an ebook at the very bottom, but it's like 35 minutes worth of looking for, where can I find this information? But it's anything, you see it huge in the ebooks. But yeah, that's pretty interesting because I noticed it again with the Facebook ads. Sometimes they'll just sit there and I know what they're doing, but I'm just curious what the fuck the point is. Excuse my language there, but what's your point here? Where are you getting at? But yeah, that's pretty interesting. And I never really considered that with the parallax design. I always thought from the aesthetics, it looks really nice. And the fact that you continue to push that copy works. But if there is a natural point there, yeah, I could see where you'd break away and that could potentially jeopardize the sale.
And it also depends very heavily on the context of what the business does, right?
Right.
Because if you're like a wedding planner or a graphic artist or something that's very visual heavy, the aesthetics matter a lot more, almost more than the copy does.
Sure.
Or at least as much. But if you're a personal trainer, if you're I don't know, whatever it is, then in that case, you're almost better off with like a Google Doc in a sense. Not always, but
yeah, it makes sense. No, that's for sure. So, I think for a lot of people, at least I can speak to budgets coming into websites. Working with a lot of small businesses, budget is always a big concern. And so a lot of the times when I deal with my clients, they're sending me copy. I'll go in there and I'll revamp some stuff as best as I can because, believe it or not, some people are not necessarily, maybe they could have used an English major. I'll put it to you that way. Their word flow doesn't really work so well. Their punctuation is just terrible and it eats me alive. They're misusing words sometimes. That's just not their forte. Their forte is their business, and you wear a lot of hats. But, on recommendations about a copywriter, I guess maybe it's a fact that not a lot of people understand what it is, but people kind of see that now as more of a luxury. Like, oh, I'll put the website up and I'll get a copywriter later. It's something I can use, but I really don't need it. Do you think that's a valid way to think? Or do you think that that mindset is sort of shifted where, this isn't a luxury anymore. This is really a necessity?
Yeah. So first, this might also cause you to close your ears. If your business is new and your marketing budget is tight, I actually tell people, don't start with a website. And this is, again, very context heavy, but if you don't have a lot of people already knowing your website name and searching for your website, and you don't have that SEO that will get traffic to your website, how much mileage are you actually going to get out of it, right? And
Fair point.
Or like, even if you want to do the Google My Business thing, do you even need a website? You know this better than me. Do you even need a website for that, for the Google My Business?
You don't, because if you have a hard location or a physical location, the Google My Business is going to work really well because it's on proximity. So if I'm driving by and I'm looking for a pizzeria and I happen to have a Google My Business pizzeria location there, it's going to prompt you based on location. So the website becomes irrelevant, and it'll find your other social media channels that you can connect on there. If you have no physical location, no website, a little more difficult. You can still connect your Facebook and Instagrams and stuff like that, but it's not going to be featured as prominent. So,
yeah. So my point being that if you don't have that sort of traction and assets that make a website really useful to you, I'd say what you want to do is put your budget into creating a landing page. And there's landing page builders you can use: Unbound, Lead Pages, ClickFunnels. I'm sure there's more. And creating, basically, a lot of businesses can get away with what's called a one-step funnel or a two-step funnel. Mm-hmm. One step is basically add to landing page. And sometimes some people do like, you sign up for one thing, then you go to another landing page to finish the sign up or do whatever. But if you're just starting out, a lot of businesses can be like, hey, here's an ad, here's my landing page, here's my offer, give me your name, email, and phone number, and I'll call you.
Right.
And then you sell them on the offer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in total disagreement with you, believe it or not. I do tell people, and I have told people on occasion, again, probably not the best business practice. My accountant might not want to hear this, but I'll tell people sometimes, you don't need the website right now, or you don't have the budget for this right now, but I don't think you should abandon the idea for sure. Setting up those one-page landing pages is a perfectly viable option. If you don't even want to go that far, and maybe you're not tech savvy enough to do it, to redirect your domain and whatnot, if you buy a domain at GoDaddy, or you buy a domain at InMotion Hosting, or wherever else you buy the domain, most of these companies have at least some intermediary level of a website builder that it will just be like a drag and drop editor where you just throw your logo up there if you have one, or just type the text in there and just kind of fill out some fields. So at the very least, if you have no money at all and you're just starting off, my recommendation to everybody is just get on the web, just so you have some sort of presence. And then to your point, Dan, yeah, marketing does make a difference, and you need to garner some sort of interest. People sometimes think that if I build a website, they will come. And, it's not the field of dreams, unfortunately. They will come, but there are other aspects involved with it. You touched on a little bit with SEO, and I think we've touched about that in some other podcasts and our video casts, whatever you call these things these days, vlogs. And we will again soon. We've got some guests scheduled in the future for that. But, there's a lot more that goes into the website. That's your storefront. That's your landing page for sure. But there needs to be some sort of a path and a journey to get there. And that's really where the marketing comes in. So.
And the other thing I wanted to mention, because we actually didn't hit on the key question of, is copywriting worth your budget?
Yeah.
And here's why it is because if you think about what makes advertising successful, right? From a very basic standpoint, you need an irresistible offer. You need to deliver it in a message that resonates with people, and you need to get it in front of the right people. Now, there's a million different ways to get it in front of the right people, right? There's a website. There is paid advertising. There is, you are let's say you sell wedding dresses, right? Go make a deal with the personal trainer who helps all the women who just got engaged and want to get in shape for their wedding. Be like, hey,
right,
give them my flyer or something. There's a million ways to get in front of the right people.
Yeah.
But if you don't have, and we can talk about what makes a good offer, but if you don't have the right offer and you're not communicating it in a way that hits people the right way, then it doesn't matter. And
Right.
that's what a copywriter does. A lot of times he'll help you get the right offer, or and what he should definitely do if he's or she is really good is find the right message that resonates with people and be like, I need to get this product or get the service.
Now, do you feel that message changes a lot per demographic? So male to female, 18 to 35, 40 to 65, or when you're writing your copy, whether it be for a website or for an ad, do you find that, you can generally use, and not every case, but generally use the same copy that'll attract or be attractive to every segment of audience, or is it really hyper specific?
So it changes because, so here's the problem. Let's say you have 2 gyms, right? And gym number 1 creates an offer and an ad that's like, hey, here's a 12-week program to do such and such. And people like it because it's new and it's unique from every other gym. Well, if gym number 2 now uses the same copy and the same offer, there's nothing unique about it anymore. And so you need to improve the offer or change the copy. But also, just to give you an idea of how much you can segment this, in copywriting, we have this thing called market awareness, right? And market awareness is basically, there's 5 stages of it, but let me give you 2. One is called problem aware and one is called solution aware. So problem aware is a guy or a girl who knows they have a problem, but they don't know that there's a solution out there for it. And solution aware is they have a problem, they know there's solutions out there, but they haven't picked which one is the best one. So a problem aware is a guy who's deeply in credit card debt, but let's use an example, but doesn't know that things like debt consolidation exists, or credit repair exists, or even bankruptcy exists. He thinks this problem is a fact of life for him. Whereas solution aware is, okay, well, do I want debt consolidation, or do I want to declare bankruptcy, or do I want to flee to China, like whatever it is. But you can kind of already see how you have to talk to those 2 people very, very differently. Because the problem aware guy, you need to prove to him that you understand his problem better than he understands himself.
Right.
Basically, like you're a doctor diagnosing it, so he'll listen to you when you're saying, and here's the solution. Whereas the solution aware guy, you're like, here's why my solution is better than every other solution out there. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, for sure.
And in every market, like there's people all along every stage of market awareness.
Right.
So one of the things you have to research is, who do I want to go after? Do I want to go after the problem-aware people or the solution-aware people? How many are in each bucket?
Now, do you do A/B campaigns where you're kind of targeting both segments to see where you're drawing in the most new customers?
You can. That's a question of budget.
Okay.
Because a lot of people just don't have the budget to test.
Yeah, advertising is expensive. I mean, there's no way around it. Boosting posts is nice because you can boost it for a small amount of money. But you taught me actually early on that it's the worst thing in the world to boost a post and then boost another post and then boost a post again, because your audience segments are just kind of getting reset every single time versus boosting a post and just keeping it maintained all the time, because it's narrowing your audience to like your prime candidates. And to this day, I share that information with just about everybody I ever talked to about boosting posts, because I like to see people get involved a little bit in advertising. It's that first step. You get people kind of hyped up and, for lack of a better word, addicted to all the positive results that come with new likes or click-throughs or even that first new business that you get. And that's what I think makes people a little more willing to spend some cash and really make an investment in the business from a marketing and advertising standpoint.
Yeah, and just since we're on this boosting page, boosting post rant anyway.
Yes.
The real problem with it is advertising at its core is a game of arithmetic. How much am I spending? how much am I getting back for my spend, right? ROI. And when you do it not by boosting posts, but do it the right way, you can see, okay, I get my cost per click on this ad is this, but it's higher on this, so maybe I want to turn this off. Oh, but wait, the cost per conversion, meaning either somebody who bought or gave you their information or whatever, is higher on this one, so I actually want to keep that one. So there's a lot of ways you can look at the numbers, but the point is, that's what you should be doing, is diving through the data and optimizing and seeing what should I test next.
Data is overwhelming, Dan. For sure, data is overwhelming. And that's why people like you exist, to kind of take that off our plates every once in a while. Advertising is such a tricky beast. There's just so many numbers and I guess really pathways you can kind of attack it. And it's tough. Like you said, you can kind of take any number or any analytic and really find a positive in it. It just depends what you want.
Yeah, but I think if there's something I want to, if there's one thing I want people to take away,
sure,
is that for the vast majority of people, the reason their advertising fails is either because they're targeting the wrong people, they don't have a good offer, or their message is wrong. Like in terms of optimizing and squeezing every last bit of profit out, there's a bunch of data and analytics and tricks and tactics. Right. But if you don't have those 3 core fundamentals down, you're screwed.
Right.
That's why people lose thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Well, I think audience building is probably incredibly difficult too, because you think inherently, let me just boost out to friends and that like my page or people that like my page and people that like my page as friends and so on. And I think a lot of times people sort of forget that a lot of people that like their business page are friends and family. It doesn't necessarily make them a qualified customer. It might, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. And so sometimes when you're boosting out to those friends and those family friends, if your business isn't the type of business that's got a really wide net that's going to attract everybody, maybe you don't have a good sold, I'll use web design as an example. If I boost out, and I do on occasion, depending on what the post is, I'll boost to people that like the page and whatnot and friends. But, when I'm trying to market my business, doing that is basically throwing my money in the garbage. Yeah, I'll get more likes because my friends are going to like it, but none of those likes are really converting out to leads. So it's money wasted.
Exactly.
I think it's definitely hard for people to get. And I think that's probably at least for me, the toughest part to identify any marketing campaign. I can have fun tinkering around with some of the copy and really trying to find what works. I think that's fascinating. And I wish I had more time to just dedicate to it, because I love the psychology of that. It's awesome. But it's just the audience building is it's so, at least to me, and you're way more knowledgeable in this than I am, but to me, the audience is the hardest part to sort of figure out. Am I targeting the right interests? Am I targeting the right keywords? Because sometimes it is subtle. And short of uploading like a lookalike list, that seems to be the most effective way, bar none. And we could talk about that in a later video interview podcast. I don't know what we're calling these things. Small business session here. But yeah, outside of that, trying to build that native audience, it's tough. It's tough for sure.
Yeah, and the good news, and we might have to save this for a whole nother.
I know. I could already see splinters off where we're going to have to break out and talk about something else too.
Is that Facebook is making targeting the audience way easier.
Really? Okay. Well, that's a change for Facebook. Usually they like to do the opposite.
Well, because what's happened is Facebook has spent years buying and developing artificial intelligence.
Right.
For the sake of its whole job is to figure out people who are most likely to convert on your page or convert for your ad.
Right.
So now a lot of people, they'll have other targeting, but they'll have an ad set which is just men or women of this age in this geographic location, like the most maximum level possible, and it'll take a while for Facebook to figure it out, but once it does, the AI knows better than you ever could of who's gonna who matches, and so that will become their best ad set.
Do we have an ETA on when we're getting this new?
No, people are already using it. That's what people are already doing.
Yeah. Oh, okay, interesting. I'll have to dive back into my ad campaigns and see if I get that or not. But,
You just got to make sure the pixel is set up.
yeah, Pixel's another fun one all the time.
We'll talk about that later.
Installed and reinstalled my Pixels 1,000 times. All right, so let's take a natural short shift away from our serious talk for a minute. As I've gone off camera a couple times and kind of made you the focus here, I've taken my sip of my aviation gin and tonic over here and my lovely beat up copper mug. But when I joined today, you did ask me if I was drinking scotch. You're a scotch drinker, I heard.
Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker. Okay, what got you into scotch? And cheers, by the way.
Cheers to you as well.
So what made you get into the scotch?
Basically,
any of the whiskeys, really.
Basically, my first job out of college, I worked for like a 2-man startup where I was the third man. So worked very, very closely with my bosses, and one of them is still a very, very good friend of mine.
Great.
And he was one of those like old school salespeople, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so he would take me out to the bars afterwards, and he'd be like, "No, you're drinking scotch." And I'd be like, "But it tastes awful. It's an acquired taste. Time for you to acquire it."
That's what everyone seems to. Yeah, he can't even speak now. I'll say one drink of this. That's what everyone seems to say is it's an acquired taste, but I'm not so sure it's a taste I want to acquire.
Yeah. Well, I think I just have Stockholm syndrome at this point.
But there's like such a vast community that's obsessed with scotch and whiskey and bourbons, and blows my mind, to be perfectly honest. But I have heard that before. Very early on, I had to be like 17 or 18 years old. I was working with a guy doing some website stuff. And you know what? Maybe I had to have just turned 21 at that point, because we'd always go out and we'd have a meeting at a bar, pub somewhere, and he'd always say, offer me a beer or a drink or something like that. I'm like, yeah, what the hell? I'm young at that point. I wanted to drink all the time. And I always say, it's like, it's a good thing you ordered that drink. Why is that? Because you can never trust a person that you can't drink with. They're always trying to hide something. The truth always comes out when people get a couple of drinks in them. I'm like, you know what? It's a good way to live by. I'm not so sure that everyone would agree with that, but hey, the truth sometimes does come out, right? You say things you don't mean.
I'm at the point now where I'm getting old enough that I just to function, I used to, when we were young, you could have 3 beers and still work, and then wake up the next day wine, or however many beers.
It'd be a long night for me, man. A lot more than 3. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, I'm saying, and still be able to do work that you could turn in the next day.
Yeah. Yep.
But now it's like, if I do more than one, I'm like, okay, well, my day's over.
Yep. Yeah. It's the body changes quite a bit. That's for sure. It's that old age and all those grays you could probably see coming to my head. This mop on my head right now.
Let's not talk about grays. You're coming in and it's making me sad.
Well, one of the nice things about this COVID pandemic is barbershops are back open. So I'm hoping to get my hair cut here. And that kind of is, I guess, a little bit of a segue into really what the breadth of this conversation I think is supposed to be. You and I have been talking quite a bit about some of the COVID restrictions and all the things that have been going on with that. So, it's kind of a really crucial time, I think now, as we both sort of agreed, for small businesses as they start opening up, a little bit here and there right now. I think in New Jersey, we got another 25% for recreational type things going on here. But moving forward, I anticipate that's going to continue to grow. And maybe by mid to late summer, we'll have everything back open. But, in the midst of all that, there's businesses that are sort of struggling with this idea of, can I even open back up, or have I taken such a devastating blow because I haven't had my shop open in 3 months and I'm 3 months behind on rent? Is my landlord going to let that slide and work with me? And others, I've heard a lot in the restaurant industry too, where it's more of a game of volume, that it's not worth it for us to open back up right now, because we're going to lose money if we can only have 25% people coming in and dining, and some people don't have the opportunity for the outdoor dining, which is I think up to 50% now. It's a loss every single time. And while some businesses were able to kind of adapt, like you see the pizzerias and stuff that sort of shifted their model. Some of your finer dining establishments don't have that luxury. You're not going to get a $65 steak in a styrofoam cup. It's going to taste like garbage by the time it gets there. So, that's what you and I have kind of been talking to, which really led to this conversation, I think, is just, you had some really good ideas, I thought, on how businesses can really navigate this way back from, the absolute devastation that some of them faced from COVID. How do you propose, or how do you see some of those ways materializing for these businesses? What do you think is an actual pathway for these businesses to get back on their feet?
That's what I've been thinking about. And before we even get into moving forward, I think it's worth talking about, some businesses were able to not only survive, but are survive fairly well, while others are, well, I think 170,000 or something have been permanently shut down, at the maybe more. And the question is, well, what did the businesses that survived or even are doing okay, what did they do differently? And I think it's worth talking about because we could still see a second surge. We could still see another round of shutdowns. You never know. So it's worth figuring out. It's part of the question is, okay, let's say you survived, but what can you do now that if there's another second shutdown, you're not in this, or some future event happens, that you're not in this, same problem that you were before. And it comes down to this and this is true for a lot of local businesses, is that a lot of local businesses, I think unintentionally, ignore the most powerful asset they have, which is the relationship with their customer. And when I say they unintentionally discount it, they care a lot about their customer service, about fulfillment, about making sure everybody has a great experience, but they don't bother to get their email or their home address or any form of communication, right? So when the shutdown hit, they had no way of saying, hey, like an email that said, hey, look, if you're a restaurant, we're shut down, but we're doing a special offer on delivery or on takeout, and because you've been a valuable member, blah, 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 that alone could have made the difference, as opposed to someone who all they had was Grubhub or Google My Business, right?
Yeah, or even just like a Facebook presence that they weren't using before. You see these businesses come in, and for a lot of them, the idea of ordering online, and there's restaurants local in my town right here that were super popular, are super popular, that didn't deliver. A pizzeria too, by the way, I'm speaking directly. So anybody that lives locally knows who I'm talking about. Some of the best food in town, but they didn't deliver. So it was amazing. Now they obviously do. But it's like, when you're, to your point, when you're never using these forms of communication like a Facebook or even a Google My Business, and all of a sudden you have to, people aren't already there. They're not liking it. So how do you get in touch with them?
And sorry to cut you off.
No, but go ahead. Continue your thought.
The reason my one thing is, the reason I prefer email or getting their home address even, as opposed to even like Facebook or whatever, is that's a platform you can control.
Yep.
Right. Facebook plays with its algorithm all the time of how many people can see your organic posts.
Yeah.
And you have no control over that. Google My Business, I don't know as well, but still not your control. But
it's not something you're promoting posts. I mean, you can promote something on there, but short of them looking your business up specifically, you're never seeing anything. That's a lot of reliance on somebody deciding they want to know what's going on in your business. They have to look it up. That's it.
But no one can stop you from writing someone a letter or sending them a flyer. No one can stop you from writing someone an email. And there's spam filters and different of
course,
techniques to make sure that your letter actually gets read, as opposed to just thrown out with the junk mail. But still, the basic idea of you control that communication is one that I think a lot of businesses discount. And this is the exact time that it hurts them the most. On the second point is, I think a lot of businesses don't realize how much they can monetize that relationship they have with their customer. And we talked about this a bit. And I'm not saying monetize as a dirty word of get as much money as you can. But I mean it in, if, here's the thing, if you had a client that really needed help with their copywriting or advertising, and you sent them to me, and I gave you a commission, that's a win-win-win for everybody. Your client wins because they're getting really good help from a source that they can trust, that you can trust. You win because you're making more money. I win because just whatever besides the commission I'm paying you, it's a free customer for me. And one I probably don't have to sell too hard because it's coming from a trusted source. But you can do this a million different ways. So I think the example I talked about that you saw was, before I got my haircut, it was 2 months of a Jufro, which
your hair looked pretty good.
I was scared to leave the house without a hat. Like it looked bad. So if my barber emailed me and said, hey, listen, I'm not offering haircuts right now, but I can tell you about this product that I know is going to help anybody who's dealing with crazy curly hair. And here's why. And click this link. I do get a commission, but listen, I'm only offering it to you. We're telling you about it because it's going to help you. I would have bought that. And it would have been a win for him. It would have been a win for me. And so this idea of finding partnerships and joint ventures, big businesses do it all the time. Little businesses or small businesses almost never do it. They need it more.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's some of the earliest marketing advice I ever got from an old coworker. And he said, one of the things people always forget is to work with the businesses around you. If you own a miniature golf course, partner up with the ice cream shop across the street, because that way when they come and do miniature golf, what are they going to go do afterwards? They're probably going to go get food or ice cream. The winner gets, the loser pays for the ice cream, whatever it is. And then, you give 10% off there, 5% off there, whatever, but at least you can cross promote each other. So, obviously that's a poor example in times of COVID, but it lends to what you're saying is if you work together in your businesses don't have to be alike. You can still find some level of synergy somewhere and help each other out and make money in times you don't need. I love that point.
One great example I learned from a guy called Travis Sago, who has his, people should look him up. He's one of the smartest marketing minds I know. In his Facebook group, he told the story of where he lived, there was a very popular barbecue restaurant, right? And every day there'd be lines for the drive-through. Right. And when people got to drive-through, they would be handed a menu of the restaurant's menu that was had blank on one side. Now at the time, Travis was selling like satellite TV. So he went to the barbecue guy and he said, listen, I want to pay for and print your menus. And the guy was like, what's the catch? The catch is I get to put an advertisement on the back of the menu that you're not using anyway.
Right.
And so suddenly he's got, for the small cost of printing out menus, he's getting his thing out to everybody. And then what he said was if he had been really smart back then, he'd go to other businesses and say, pay me a small fee to get on the back of this menu. And it would for himself. So it takes some imagination, it takes some creativity, but if you look for those leverage points, either in terms of how can I advertise more effectively or how can I find more revenue sources, you'll be surprised. I know one guy who he ran some sort of advertising agency, and he realized that his in-house graphic arts designer had free time 1/4 of the time. So he started renting him out to other businesses. And
hey, there you go.
But that's another thing. Are you monetizing every asset you have?
Right.
So it's almost like you need to do an audit of all your assets and be like, am I using every relationship? Am I using every asset?
Right.
Is there something here that's not being used full time that I can somehow use to bring in more revenue?
I've seen that happen a lot with like real estate. In not necessarily owning and buying and selling real estate, but sometimes people will, they're paying rent on a 1,000 square foot retail location, and they're only using 750 of it. The other piece, the 250, might not be big enough to run a retail location, or maybe you can't sublease it out to somebody else, but you can get cash under the table for your next door neighbor company or somebody around the corner, or maybe somebody that has nothing to do with your business that's 2 miles away, but use it as storage. And I've seen stuff like that happen too. As a small business owner, you're already hardworking, you're already fairly dedicated and motivated, you're already probably pretty damn creative, otherwise you wouldn't have gotten to this point to begin with. So just leverage that creativity and capitalize on it. don't be afraid. Really, to me, those points are kind of empowering and seem so obvious. But I guess, my question to you is, where do you draw some of that inspiration? Where do you kind of find avenues, or how do you find those avenues to sort of monetize aspects of your business where you don't feel like you're exploiting your customers or exploiting your employees? The worst thing you want to do is have a guy that's working 40 hours a week for you. And even if he's only really putting in 25 to 30 of them and the other 10 are just kind of screwing around, but you don't want to make them feel like they're getting underpaid to do other work. Is there a balance you can find in there?
Right. So a few different points there. So I'm going to work backwards.
Digest,
In terms of the employees, like there's a difference between saying, hey, I have a graphic designer. He's got only working, 25 of the 40. I'm going to find him more graphic design work to do because it's still his job. It's not like you're saying, now you're going to be like creating videos, even though you were just doing whatever. There's a big difference between giving them more of the same work within the same like expected time frame versus giving them a whole new responsibility that you never discussed, right? Also, management was never my strong suit. That's why I am the consultant and not the business person.
That's fair enough.
I did not go. I'm not saying that's necessarily the right answer, but
talk to the HR people about that part.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that makes sense. That certainly makes sense. You're not overworking them. You're not switching up their responsibilities. You're just sort of maximizing it and giving them, fun projects, let's say, to kind of fill that time.
And for customers, and this kind of falls under the common sense isn't common sense idea, but it's, are you actually giving them the right value for their money, right? There's a big difference between, hey, I'm going to recommend this product that I know can help them and that I believe in the quality and in the results versus, well, this product is crap, but they're offering me a high commission, so, and it's pretty, that's pretty much all you got to think about, right? There's nothing wrong with charging high prices. There's nothing wrong with in fact, if a smart business should have front-end products and back-end products, and we can talk about what that means. But
explain to people very briefly kind of what you mean by front-end products and back-end products.
All right. So the brief idea is a front-end product is a cheap, I'm not saying cheaper as in lower quality, but a more affordable product, maybe $20, $50, whatever. And depending on your business, it might not even make you money. You might only break even. Some people even take a loss on it. But what it does do is it buys you a customer who then trusts you and gets results and believes in the quality of your service. And then you can either upsell them or come back to them at a later date with a much more expensive product. And that's where you make your money. But it's important to understand it's the more expensive product also does a lot more and it's worth that value.
Right.
So that's the main difference.
So for people that watch Bar Rescue, John Taffer, love the guy. They always talk about like loss leaders in the restaurant industry. And that's probably at least the cleanest example I could think of. So Applebee's used to do half price appetizers, and they might even still do, I don't remember, after 10 o'clock. The idea isn't so much that they're going to make money on the appetizers. It's just after 10 o'clock, the people that are probably coming in, they're going to probably buy some appetizers you're going to take a loss on because they're paying probably costs for the product. But the idea is that they're going to be drinking booze. And the more food they're going to eat, you'll give them cheap food because there's not a lot of margin in that to make sure that they're drinking more drinks because there's a huge margin on that. So I think that's what you're sort of saying, and if I'm correct.
No, that's definitely like a short game example.
Sure.
A longer game example might be, listen, if you try to create an ad to get people to buy a $10,000 website, that'd be hard. But right. If you created an ad that said, hey, for $100 or $50 or whatever, I'll give you a full audit of your website, right?
Right.
And that audit, when you look at what your time is worth versus how long it takes you, you might lose that, like you might not be making money, but you know that 1 of every 10 or 1 of every 20 people are going to take that audit and be like, oh, we should get a $10,000 website from this guy. That's what we mean by buying customers.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to put it too. Just, I often try to tell people to give content away for free. And that is exactly that. And at least you're still making a little bit of money there, but it's just, you're using your expertise in such a hyper specific way to somebody's business. And it doesn't have to just be a consulting business. Obviously it could be anything. That's a really cool idea. I like that a lot, for sure.
So I forgot what we were talking about before.
No, it's just sort of getting some ideas on, how to draw the inspiration, I guess, really to generate new business. And I think that does touch on the point quite a bit, and how to sort of differentiate between, are you abusing your customers and you're not? And that's where you sort of dove into the idea of, giving something away, or giving a low offer into kind of the big offer.
And then in terms of finding inspiration, I think what people should do more often is go through the ads and offers of other businesses. Because I guarantee you other industries are doing stuff that you could very easily modify for your own industry that no one in your industry is doing.
That's a good point. You always see a lot with, sign up for this list and get a free iPad or something like that. And I've gotten that example kind of thrown at me a number of times, because people are big on like the Facebook competitions and stuff now, and like and share this page. I'm actually part of one with KCS General Contracting. For those of you looking, go ahead, like and share, and you get some good swag. But to the greater extent, you always see those free iPhones or the free iPads or the free tablets and stuff. And like, how are they giving this stuff away? It's a $700 item or $1,000 item. But on the flip side of that is, you're paying $1,000 as a business owner. And if you get 10,000 people that sign up for it, that lead, the cost of that lead is so minuscule now that it was worth $1,000, because you would have paid 10 times as much to get those emails other way. So yeah, I like that. Look at other industries. Ironically enough, and not to keep drawing it back to my business, but I guess that's kind of the point of these shows, right? Is when I talk to people about website design and inspiration, for the longest time when I worked at the Marketing Technicians Association in Manhattan, our website was ESPN.com. This is a financial analysis website that looked, functioned, and acted like ESPN.com. My boss loved it. He was always on it, big sports fan. And so anytime they rolled out a feature, that feature became our website. I swear to God, the people that went on our website and went on ESPN, if you took the side-by-side screenshots of those websites, they were almost identical. I mean, it was, but nobody ever noticed at all, because it was two completely separate industries. And so when I sit down with people and talk to them about, what do you want in your website, blah, 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 and they always just try to send me things that are in their industry. Don't send me this. You can't mimic your competition. It's too obvious. It's going to look silly. You're going to just look like a knockoff of this other guy. Find what you love in what inspires you to want to make a website. What are your favorite sites? What draws you in outside of your industry? And 9 times out of 10, they'll be able to find this and this and this, and you pull those little aspects together. And you're not going to copy them exactly, but you integrate some of those features because you can find what works, right? And the same thing is going to go for the ads and the promotions, and I think things like that. I think that's what you're sort of getting at.
Yeah, and
things work. They click.
I'll tell you a funny story. There's among copywriters, there was an ad at, I think in the 70s or 80s or 60s, I forget which, that did really well, and it's known for its headline, which is, it was something like, famous New York City socialite swears under oath that her new fragrance does not contain illegal sexual stimulant. And it was to promote that. It was an ad to promote the new fragrance.
Yeah.
And it was for they were doing a launch at some store, and that ad worked so well the police had to shut down the thing because of how over capacity it was.
Wow.
And I was thinking, before we got on, I was thinking about them, what if someone did an ad of local pizzeria swears under oath its slices do not contain LSD.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are willing or more than welcome to go ahead and try that if you've got a good sense of humor, but we cannot be held liable for what might happen. Yeah, I think thinking out of the box and being edgy is certainly a way to go. It's certainly the trend. I mean, we've seen it all throughout history. What sells, we all know. But yeah, it's taking a risk. Look at some of the ridiculous commercials out there even today, and What sells in the Super Bowl is wild and wacky commercials, and there's no reason you can't implement those thoughts, the ideas behind it all year round, you know?
Yeah. Well, let me go off on that tangent. So
Yeah, go.
this is something I learned from a guy called Bon Halbert, another guy people should look up because he might be the smartest marketing mind alive right now. But no, seriously, his dad had him marketing stuff at the age of 8.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So what he taught me was that the way a business differentiates itself, whether it's a big business or a pizza shop or a barber or whatever, is something is with a hook, offer, or solution. So a hook is what people think of in terms when they think marketing, right? It's the Gecko Geico. It's the illegal sexual stimulant. It's the Old Spice commercials with the guy who's half man, half horse, right? And the idea there is it's something that grabs your attention so well, it's just going to get more eyeballs on your ad than anything else, and you're just going to win because of law of numbers, right? A solution is, think of it as a solution to a problem that's common within your industry. So that's the Domino's, you're going to get your pizza in 30 minutes or it's free. And that solves the problem of, well, I don't know when my pizza's going to get here, so I don't know if it'll be an hour or 2 hours, and I'm hungry now, right? And that worked like gangbusters at first before everyone started copying it. But if you have a unique solution, that's going to beat everybody else. If you're fixing a problem that everybody else hates, right? I think with the cell phone industry, it was, I forget who did it first, but someone started getting rid of yearly contracts because people hated the yearly contracts. Now I think nobody has yearly contracts.
Yeah, I mean, you can sign up for them for the most part. Yeah, they're pretty much obsolete. Same thing with the unlimited data. You know, that was gone, and all it took was one of them to bring it back, and guess what? Everyone's got it again. So,
so I guarantee you, in your industry, there's something that your customers universally hate.
Yeah,
and just fix that. That's the thing.
That's great advice.
And an offer is, I mean, there's a lot of different forms an offer could take, but it's the buy one get one free. It's the, how are you making your thing better than all your competitors for your customers? Whether it's, so for a grocery store, this was, someone told me this once, they wanted to raise their average sales, like cost of average value of sale. So they came up with a promotion of free gallon of milk with every $10 purchase.
Out of control.
Yeah. Well,
that's a lot of milk.
Yeah, but here's what happened. Their average sale was like $5 or something before that promotion. It went to 10 or over 10 after that promotion.
Double revenues.
And the jug of milk is, what's the wholesale price? Like $1?
Yeah, probably $1. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd make that deal all day.
Yeah.
And you can think how you can do that for other industries.
Right.
If you're a hair salon, right? You would have to, you really have to run the numbers and make sure that it makes sense. But if you, like, for a certain thing, you offer free foot massages or something, and you just have to make sure that it covers the cost of someone to come in and do the foot massage.
Right.
People are going to take that.
Right. And you figure your haircut is probably, a woman's haircut especially, is probably $100 and something every time. So maybe they're rubbing your feet as you're getting your hair snipped, and you knock 2 birds with one stone. It doesn't waste any of their time.
Or while they're, what's that thing like that?
The drying the hair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Clearly. I'm not in hair salons too often. So I go to an old school barber where you walk in, there's no appointment needed. I buzz my head and snip up the top, and I'm out of there. So.
You're married. I thought your wife might have educated you on
she does her own hair thing. I do my own hair thing. All I know is she comes back and she always looks better than ever. So,
but getting a foot massage while their hair is being.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying, I don't know if that would work. I don't know if that's a good idea.
But hypothetically, that's the kind of outside of the box thinking you need to do. You need to find things that might draw people in. There's your hook. That are gonna, most people, maybe it's a pedicure, maybe it's just cleaning up their toenails and stuff. I know people do that all the time when they're.
And sometimes it's just you could find something different
Right.
that also is more like just sounds more appealing.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
consider, hey, sign up for my gym. It's $100 a month, and you come in, you pick things up, you put them down, and you run around. Versus come in for a 12-week program. We're going to hold your hand every step of the way, and we're
Right.
going to help you get into the shape you want.
Right.
Right?
And you
That's
could probably charge more
exactly
because,
for 12.
there's a finite amount too. And it kind of gives this expectation that in 12 weeks, I'm either going to see results or I'm not. And most likely I am. Whereas, joining the gym, well, I don't know. I've got no motivation. Who's going to help me? Who's going to push me? So that's some great advice. Dan, I think as we sort of wrap things up right here.
Has it already been an hour?
I think it's been a little over. It's about close to an hour. Yeah. I told you these things go fast, man.
Wow.
I usually tell people let's try to target 30 to 45 minutes, but it'll probably end up being the latter, 45 to an hour. And this is why.
I feel like we barely got through anything.
I know that's the problem. Is it's just you could talk and talk and talk all day, and it's fun stuff. I hope people out there are enjoying these things just as much as we do.
Yeah.
That's why I said we're going to splinter off so many ways, and we kind of did already. So we'll have to do a couple more of these down the road. But yeah, as we kind of wrap things off, I mean, really the other thing I wanted to kind of bring up to you, because I hear it a lot, is, my business isn't suited to make it through this pandemic, or my business can't apply these techniques, or my business this. It's a lot of excuses, but probably excuses sort of masked under maybe a fear or an insecurity or something to that degree. In your opinion, I mean, do you think every business, and I'm generalizing here, but every business has the capability to come out of this pandemic swinging? Do you think there are some businesses that are in better position than others, or are we being overly optimistic in thinking that, some people are going to fail and they have no way out, there's no way around it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think there's any business that can't do it because of the industry they're in or whatever. There's businesses that went into this pandemic that had more of a cash reserve, had already had like their customers' contact info and pivoted and were doing the right stuff beforehand. So because of what they did, they're in a better position versus someone who might not have paid rent for 3 months and is kind of starting from scratch. So look, it could be that you're in such a bad financial position now because of the pandemic that you can't keep going, which sucks. But it is what it is. But that's a very different thing from I can't do this purely because of the industry I'm in. I'd be hard pressed. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some industries out there I'm not thinking of that.
Right. It's hard not to generalize a little bit when you talk about this kind of stuff.
But I know there's I think there was some alcohol maker, or I forget what the story was, but they started creating hand sanitizer.
A lot of them, breweries around here and stuff, anybody that had the capability. You talked about it earlier, find another way to make money. And it's just like, hello, like how genius is that? I'm just going to, instead of making alcohol to drink, I want to make alcohol to rub your hands with, it's just.
So so I think the thing is, if your problem is, I don't have the products or the services that I can sell right now, you might be right from that sort of linear thinking, because let's bear in mind, it's a pandemic. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are broke. So a lot of people, even if they want to buy it, they can't, because right now they're just like, what do I need to buy versus what can I buy? So you might need a more must-have product or more must-have service. That's another consideration. But the point being that if you have assets, if you have relationships, you can always create new products, create new services. You just have to. It's the old question of what problems can I solve for people right now with the assets that I have?
I've seen locally, like t-shirt makers have completely switched to our t-shirt, like printers and stuff like that have completely switched, and they're making custom masks now in bulk for retail and stuff too. Like you have a retail shop and people have to wear masks. Most people don't have access to them, so they're printing them off. T-shirt makers print them off, and those retail locations are handing them out for free to draw people in the stores.
Yeah.
You know, like you said with the alcohol, you got distilleries and breweries that are coming around and creating hand sanitizers, and it's crazy just to see how people have sort of adapted.
And I do want to make one last point, because I
Yeah.
thought of this, and I thought of this specifically for bars, and who I know they're struggling with the capacity, but is that, and you got to figure out what your market is, because some cities are not worried about the pandemic at all and are just like,
Right.
let me into the bar, and some cities are like,
Yeah.
no, we're all gonna die.
Yeah, that's New Jersey, the second one. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, what you personally think doesn't matter. What matters is the pandemic.
Right.
But
Right.
there's a way to play it in both scenarios, because I promise you, in both cases, people are so sick of being outside, they're ready to scream.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a solution. You have a place they can go and not be in their house anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if the problem is, hey, I'm at half capacity, I can't afford to open up. And this will depend on your location and size and whatever. But what you can do, and this is something to test, I don't know if it'll work, and that's true for everything I ever suggest.
Right. Well, you don't know unless you try. So
you're holding that space hostage. So if I was in a city that thought like the pandemic wasn't a thing and they didn't care, I'd be throwing I'm going to use PG-13 language, screw COVID party every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in my bar. You got to pre-buy tickets, because the government is, saying
Yeah.
I'm at 50, $30 tickets to get in, or however many. I'm betting people are going to buy up those tickets.
Right.
If they cover that much, I bet it's going to cover a lot of your 50%
off.
Yeah,
especially if you're going to do some sort of cover charge, you at least know exactly what to buy.
Yeah.
And you can plan for that. You can offer free food, that's color cover, and just serve up, whatever is easy. A big tray of pasta is always like the big one. That way people drink some more. That's a pretty cool idea, actually. And again, I don't know if it'll work either, but hey, it's better than nothing, right?
But conversely, if you're like in New Jersey where everyone is worried they're going to die, they still want to get out of the house.
People still want to get out of the house.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, people don't care if they're going to die, even if they're worried about it. They actually don't care. They're still willing to try. So,
but the messaging for a place that's less insane than New Jersey, shall we say, is hey, you want to get out of the house, but you don't want to. But you want to be careful. Well, listen, our bar is taking this precaution, this precaution, this precaution, and we're capping it at 50. You're going to be 6 feet from people.
Right.
You're still going to have a great time. We're still going to have great drinks and whatever. But we're going to need but to make sure, to keep you safe, we're selling tickets.
Yeah.
Make sure, like it's different messaging. It's not as edgy, but it's worth a try, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Dan, I can't thank you enough. Again, this hour flew by. I told you it would. If people want to reach out to you or contact you, or when your schedule might open up at some point down the line, maybe hire you, bring you on some marketing, advertising consultant, where can they find you?
Yeah, you know what? The best way is just to email me. So that my email is dnsrkn@gmail.com.
And I will add that in the bottom of the screen for you.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
All right, for everybody else out there, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this just as informative and enjoyable as I did. Dan and I go back many, 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 many years through a plethora of different projects and fun things that we could talk about in another episode here. The two of us kind of have the opportunity to BS back and forth on Facebook and Messenger all the time and just brainstorm some ideas back and forth. So to kind of come on here and share those ideas with you is fun for us. And again, hope you guys got something out of it. My name is Shane Skwarek. I thank each of you for spending the hour or hour-ish with us and hope to see you guys again soon. So long, everybody.
If you want to help